So Felix, you'll like this. Over the weekend, I visited Minnesota's largest candy store.
Ooh.
And I figured I was thinking of you the whole time. I mean, is that we're going to winter this year?
I hope. What kind of candies did they have there? Did they have any local favorites?
Oh God, they had like every kind of candy. Like I said, this isn't like a giant barn, or they keep having to add more silos onto this barn. They have You Betcha, Minnesota's local mints that come in the largest tin of mints that is commercially available in the United States is Minnesota's You Betcha brand of breath mints. So they got all kinds of Japanese candies. They got every conceivable form of candy known to man in this barn, but it's only open seasonally. So it was closing in a week. So when we went there, it was like mobbed with Minnesotans, like checking out with like fucking like shopping carts full of candy to get them through the winter.
Yeah, no, that's one of the only places left where candy is seasonal. You have to get all your candy for the year in like November.
Well, I mean, when I went there, I was only thinking of you because and it's two of your favorite things are candy in the state of Minnesota.
That is a Great Lakes classic though. Seasonal marts besides Halloween Mania or whatever the fuck that store is called. You know what I'm talking about.
Spirit.
Spirit Halloween.
Halloween Mania.
You know what I meant. Spirit Halloween. Okay. We have Kris Kringle Mart in Chicago, which is a good-hearted celebration of German culture. It's a seasonal German Christmas market outdoors in the winter, the kind that used to exist before the time of Adolf Hitler and other evil men.
Well, anyway, I had a nice weekend in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Shout out to everyone in the Upper Midwest. You know, Chapo fucks with you. You know, we're rolling hard for the lakes of this country. But I guess let's just start just a little bit more midterms action. The Democrats picked up a seat in Nevada in the Senate, so they don't even need Warlock now. So
bye, Warlock. Nice knowing you.
They defended that seat. They picked up the seat in Pennsylvania. CCM, the fake Latina, actually was the incumbent defending her seat. So they have 50 in hand going into Georgia. But again, I do think, I think all factors favor Warlock.
I do expect Warlock to win the. I'm sticking with that prediction. We'll see who gets the gay potioned up. On this particular.
I'm willing to get gay potion for my faith in Herschel Walker.
Did you guys know this about the candidate who lost in Nevada, though, the challenger to the incumbent? Yeah. Did you know this is actually crazy? He's Pete Dominici's bastard.
Yes.
Wait, who is
he was
Pete
raised
Dominici?
by the Laxalts, which is like a political dynasty in Nevada. Paul Laxalt, who his like fake grandfather or something, was like one of Ronald Reagan's big backers and helped make him president. And yes, they raised a New Mexico senator, Dominici's bastard kid, as their own. It's amazing. It's some Game of Thrones shit. It's like he's one of the Greyjoys sent to Winterfall.
Yeah. He served under a cadet house, and I guess he would be legitimized if he had won this election, but nope.
Yep, sorry. Still a bastard boy.
Did we decide on the Beltway episode that the Game of Thrones bastard's name for Nevada would be Chips?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Chips.
Yeah. Adam Chips loses to what would a fake Latina be in the Game of Thrones world? Catherine
Cornish?
from Volantis.
wasn't Rob Stark's ill-fated wife sort of a Latinx style?
She is from Volantis. Yeah,
Volantis. Yeah, like a.
You got red wedding.
My Dominican friend pointed out she's been watching House of Dragons, and she pointed out that all the characters, their names seem Dominican. Like all the names that are ones? Like Iocarnis Targaryen.
And I guess the other thing is this was sort of a surprise to me. Carrie Lake lost the governor's race in Arizona. That's what it looks like now.
What? And no, she's a freaking smoke show.
Yeah,
we need more hot governors. This is no good.
I thought she was going to be. I thought she was going to be the one. I thought she was going to be like the one big Trump candidate to show out. But no, Carrie Lake looks like she lost as well. Blake Master is officially lost. I mean, the postmortem. I agree with you, Felix. The postmortem on that campaign is like like you said you would read like a Robert Caros like 3 like tomes detailing everything that went into the Blake Master Senate run.
The decision to take a video of him just shooting a suppressed pistol in the desert, like he's fucking Dylan Harris getting ready to fucking walk into Columbine. Amazing.
This is a Walther PPK. I've wanted this gun for a long time, ever since I was a little kid. Made in Germany, 007 gun. Why would you not want this? Silencers sometimes get a bad rap. People want to pretend that it makes it easy to commit crime or something like that. But actually, shooting with a silencer just makes it a whole lot more pleasant. Wow. Whisper quiet. It's pretty cool. Made in Germany.
Yeah, there was so much active shooter behavior. Like the picture he posted right before the election where he's in the car with the rifle.
Yeah, but he's in the passenger seat.
Into a target.
Yeah.
He's in the passenger seat of a car, and there's like a fucking assault rifle next to him, and he's like gearing up for the last days. You're headed to a Democratic polling precinct? What's going on? You're headed to a Mark Kelly's office?
I was mutuals with him since the primary. You know, I followed him back because I'm like, let's see how this plays out. Because I already, just based off gut, I did think he was going to lose that Senate election, even before Dobbs. But I wanted to see how it went. But even in my wildest fantasies, nothing I imagined could be as inept and internet-y as what he actually did. He would put out campaign flyers that were like, hey, everyone, say your Blake Masters Groyper name. It's your first and your last name plus Blake Masters Groyper. And voters resoundingly said, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I've seen a bit of the salt from the Blake Masters supporting contingent when the postmortem just seems to be we cannot run a guy this weird again. We cannot run a school shooter for Senate. There's just everything about this guy is off-putting and creepy. And a lot of them have just been posting photos of Blake Masters with his wife and kids to be like, I don't know what's weird about this. And it's like, having a family doesn't exempt you from being weird and a creep. It's just the fact that
you can get him on the dark web. It's not difficult.
Dennis Rader had a family.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess a week on now from the midterms, I suppose where we're left is look, it has been very it's felt really good to see the Republicans eat shit and then whine and complain about it. That feels good. And there are very few things in the news that make you feel good these days. But unfortunately, as the high of that wears off, and we're just licking the baggie a little bit, in Twitter replies, trying to gin up some salt here, trying to just rub it on your gums. I mean, we are left now with just back to the old depressing reality of American politics, which is the Democrats, I'm sure, will learn their lessons from this and change going forward. No, I mean the fact that they were just gifted this great result for them, largely because of the Dobbs decision, means that they're going to be even less inclined to ever function as any kind of party that's worth actually voting for.
They can't. It's not optional. They don't get to choose. They do not get to change direction. It is all determined. There's no party. There's no steering wheel in the Democratic Party. There's no way to take it over and change the way it goes because there's no way to make these people do anything that they don't want to do. They will do what protects them, like what you saw in New York. How New York is the reason that they're going to lose the House, and it's because the New York State Democrats were not going to do anything that they perceived as undermining their own power base. It didn't matter that undermined their ability to win races. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to them. Their specific and individual power base within the party is what matters. And so even in the face of, hey, what you're doing is going to lose races. You're going to lose power. That doesn't compute. They would probably prefer to gain power, maybe, although who knows. What matters is that they cannot act differently. There is no force to coordinate them in any interest other than their own most narrow self-perceived interests. That's the only thing Democrats in the party and in power and in office can do.
Well, I suppose then one shouldn't feel bad at all for enjoying Republicans eating shit, because it doesn't necessarily mean anything for the Democrats, because if they had won, lost, draw, they would behave exactly the same way.
Yes.
Defeat, victory, or dead draw, as we've come out with now.
Yeah, the reason they have all these guys like fucking David Shore and these dudes, it's like McKinsey. They're there to tell them that what they want to do anyway is the right move. That's always it. They're not deciding what to do. They're making self-interested decisions and then finding people in the media and in the pundit sphere and among consultants to affirm that that is the right thing, to assure the rest of us that they know what they're doing.
It's interesting because among Democrats that overperformed on Tuesday, I would split them into two camps. Some are, yes, people who are gifted this, while others are people who, in some sense, understand, what time it is. And understand, like, some things must be done in order to keep doing this. The problem with the latter, of course, is that in order to do that, in order to keep delivering things or otherwise, win elections like this in years where there isn't a Dobbs, so much has to happen. Matt talked about how they can't do all these things. For that latter group, they would need to have an executive that would just, ignore the courts or deliberately weaken them. You would need the Federal Reserve to be a different thing than it is now. You would need a lot of different things. And unfortunately for that latter group, they really don't get to decide those things. I mean, it's a whole set of things that you see that's partially from like the left liberal Warren supporting people who are like, okay, now in the lame duck session, let's add DC and Puerto Rico as states. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I think this will be a theme for today's episode, but we're already seeing the rug pull coming for the student loan forgiveness. Like, that's unconstitutional. And Biden just said today that, like, sorry, we just don't have the votes for a federal abortion legislation. And then, by the way, we're also not getting rid of the filibuster to do that. So, back to normal, back to regularly scheduled politics in this country. I guess here's a question though: do you think how many impeachments of Joe Biden are we going to get? One, more than one?
Sadly, zero. We're not going to get the funniest thing that I was hoping would come out of a Republican House is a Brandon impeachment, because that. Now the Republican caucus is completely held by the balls by these 4 New York Republicans who cannot be the face of a fucking Brandon impeachment if they have any hope of keeping their seats. So we're not going to get our beloved Brandon impeachment, I don't think.
We will get something funnier, which is, the Lebanon-style power sharing agreement for the House. I mean, this is going to be one of the funniest periods ever in the history of the House of Representatives. I mean, okay, so maybe it does come down to a 1-seat majority for Republicans. There's never a time when all reps are there.
Yep.
They're always going to some like fucking after dinner speech to raise money for re-election, or going on some fucking junket to Oman.
Or they die. These people are all 90 years old. They drop dead all the time.
Or remember that that dopey lady who died in a car crash?
Yes.
They're representatives. They're not senators. They die like normal people. They're loser, stupid, normal people. They're not archons like senators are.
Yeah, we've established this. They don't have the Dune shield technology yet for driving cars, or walking downstairs. I guess one other development here. I mean, how are you guys feeling about the Ron DeSantis as the Elizabeth Warren of the Republican caucus? Like he can win if you believe in him, kind of a candidate. Because I mean, polls are showing that he's up on Trump in certain areas. But
one poll that showed Trump only up by 7 points prior to this. Bullshit. I don't buy that for a second. I never want anyone to ever fucking show me anything by a Republican polling firm from here on out. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
They just make up whatever they want. That's pretty established.
But like, I mean, like, do you think like the pitch for Ron DeSantis is eerily similar to the pitch for Elizabeth Warren, because he's like, he can get it done. He can take black people out of Disney movies, you know?
Yeah.
He's going to hold hearings on it. He's going to have charts about Black Ariel.
Yeah, he's gonna every Tuesday in the Rose Garden when he's president. He's gonna read the name of boys who killed themselves because they were taught the 1619 Project and to hate themselves in school.
We alluded to it on the end of last week, the last episode we did. But I guess just the other really big news story from last week that's still ongoing is the golden age, the return of Twitter as being a vital thing for our society, the modern agora, you know. So Elon Musk's Twitter, we've had it now for about 2 weeks. Fellas, I got to say, it's been great.
Wonderful.
It's pretty good.
I mean, look, none of the parody accounts have been funny, but their effects on the real world have been quite hilarious.
Oh my
goodness! Like tanking Eli Lilly's stock by just saying insulin's free now. If that's what it takes to fucking just crater Eli Lilly's stock market value, is just people realizing, like, wait a second, why isn't insulin free already? Wait, what the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's like if Adbusters kind of worked a little bit.
But then Musk himself, just basically being on Twitter, replying to people and just being like, interesting, we're working on that. I think the thing that's funny about like the Musk managed Twitter is, I mean, like, A, what a shit show it is, but B, also that they're realizing that like Twitter was not run as a company that was like some sort of SJW cabal seeking to like suppress speech. And I mean, I'm sure they do that in various ways, but I think it's like mainly they're finding out that it's a company that was desperately trying to find a way to make money. And I think now he's basically going to reverse engineer all of the content moderation and management of Twitter that there was already in place, because like that's the way to make it economically viable, or like the only way to make it even approach being economically viable or attractive. I mean, it's not looking good for advertisers right now on Twitter.
He convinced himself because he doesn't know anything, and he's surrounded by a bunch of fucking people who just tell him that his instincts are correct. He has the same instincts as a bunch of dumb rich assholes, which is to think, like the political correctness that dominates social media places, like the speech constraints, are the result of ideologically motivated SJW jihadists, and that you could basically bully them off of the point and then dom them because they're a bunch of blue-haired pussies and they have no grit. But it turns out a company that is fueled by advertising dollars has advertisers who do not want to piss off vital segments of the market. And the market that you're protecting by going free speech absolutist is the aging is a demographic that is shrinking relative to all the other demographics, and trying to appeal to them by necessity means alienating the actual growth segments in the market. So it doesn't matter if you're what color your hair is, or if you have a septum piercing. The money tells you gotta get off that platform. And their only response, amazingly, was he thought that he was gonna like get his army of fans to intimidate them the way they imagine that the social justice warriors do. But again, that's one weird segment of weirdos against everyone else. That's not a hard call. That's not a difficult decision to make for a company.
The thing that is astounding to me, the most telling of dumb things he said that was flagged by Birdwatch, which is the dumb community flagging system with Twitter, is he said that Twitter is the biggest driver of links. More people click links from Twitter than anywhere else on the internet. And it turns out
like 10,000 times more driven from Facebook.
7% by Twitter, 70% by Facebook. By a factor of 10. Neck and neck with Pinterest. I'd actually probably say that Pinterest drives it more if we're accounting for like bot shit. But it does. That specifically was an amazing tell for me. Because, like, what have we heard for years? Twitter isn't real life. Journalists are obsessed with Twitter. Journalists think Twitter is broadly representative of the world, despite being a very small sliver of social media. That is, that's true. It does make you see the world with blinkers. However, it turns out that conservatives, they have those exact same blinkers on. They think that Twitter is representative of the real world, but you just have to turn off the shadow banning lever and the search ban lever and the retweet throttling lever, and then it's actually a true Roman forum. I think he literally bought this thing thinking that it was the most broadly used thing in the world just because he's on it all the time.
If I'm on it, then it's got to be where it is, that by definition, because I'm there.
Yeah.
No, Felix, to your point, though, I mean, I think you see that in these people's obsession with bots and bot networks. I mean, this is exactly like the Russian election hacking, disinformancia, like liberal obsession with bots and Russian bot networks. I think it's just for a certain kind of boomer. If they encounter anyone disagreeing with them, they now assume it's a robot of some kind. They're like we've talked about this before, but they're all like Dwayne Hoover in Breakfast of Champions. And it doesn't really matter whether you're a liberal or a conservative. They just think any evidence of people not liking my posts or my follower count plateauing is the result of some sort of nefarious artificial intelligence and not just, the people you encounter on social media.
Yeah, you see it in his replies. Anytime someone is like, the thing he had today, we've deleted 20% of bloatware, and then 2 seconds later, two-factor authentication doesn't work anymore. When people are replying to him and going, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you're breaking it. Everyone who has a purchased blue check mark will reply to the unverified person saying this with a little robot emoji, just like libs right after the 2016 election. Exact same thing.
It's amazing. They've gotten to the point where if you did not buy a check mark so that you could be on Elon's team, then that is prima facie evidence that you must be a robot. That's what they've decided. It's amazing. It's like, I'm sorry, who's the person who is unthinkingly and automatically doing something that the company wants them to do? Yeah, that's you, motherfucker. You're the robot. Oh my God. Fucking plot twist.
We do have numbers on how many people have made that jump, have purchased the special Twitter Blue for the checkmark. It's about 22,000 people, which is, okay, he would need 13 million to even service the debt. It's just off revenue. And they're actually making less of a profit off that special Twitter Blue than they were in the previous era because of the pausing of blue chip advertisers. They're actually like losing money, probably 20,000 subscriptions is probably losing them money because of the lack of ad revenue, because they have to reduce the ads. It's not even ad free. It's half the ads. But I think he's
wait, Twitter Blue is not even ad free. It's just less ads. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The thing that is really amazing about the previous thing, where it was like, okay, we're going to counter boycott, we're going to bully them into advertising on Twitter. It's the idea that like Twitter is this amazing place to advertise that everyone wants to advertise on. It is a fraction of advertisers' budgets. They've never really given a shit about it because it's never really like done anything. There's a big debate over what advertising works and if it's overall effective or not. But certainly ads on Twitter are so negligible, and you can just throw them away and not even notice that it's like, why would they come back?
Yeah, there's no incentive to do it. I mean, unless they're afraid of getting brutally pwned in the comments by the Elon Brigade, which I'm sorry, that's not a social force worth worrying about when you're talking about your bottom line as a company.
Well, I mean, another thing this has treated us to is like it's given people on Twitter a kind of a keyhole glimpse into what it's like to work for one of Elon's companies, like a Tesla or something like that. And man, he seems like a competent manager and a good boss. I mean, I guess there is no such thing as a good boss, but it does seem like him, like I would imagine pretty much all of these guys. Like, what do you do? What do you enjoy about being a CEO or running a company? The ability to fire people. And push your weight around. And swing your dick around.
Yeah.
The LA Times has a run up of headline: "Is the world's richest person the world's worst boss? What it's like to work for Elon Musk" by Russ Mitchell for the LA Times. And he sounds like he sounds like a baby, but like also kind of a psycho. But like not
that's
in like
all
an,
rich
not,
people now.
Not in like an baby intimidating psychos. Way. Just a baby. Like he just lashing out and also being like sort of like a Christmas Carol, except no one gets a goose at the end of the day. I'm just going to read for a couple of things from the LA Times article. It says here, another whistleblower, Martin Tripp, moved to Hungary to escape the wrath of Musk after the news site Insider ran a story about excessive scrap waste at Tesla's battery factory in 2018. Private investigators hired by Musk to identify the source named Tripp a factory employee. Tripp was fired. Tesla said he stole company data. Musk later called a reporter to say he'd heard Tripp was on his way to the factory with a gun. The local sheriff's department later said no, he was miles away in Reno with no gun and no evidence that he had one. So saying that a whistleblower was going to do a workplace shooting at a Tesla factory, a Tesla battery factory. That's pretty good. And also, you remember during the when those the kids in Thailand were trapped in a cave, and he said the rescue diver was a pedophile.
Yeah.
Next up, it says, one way Tesla lowered its injury numbers, according to Reveal, was by denying ambulance service to some injured factory workers who requested it. Medical staff were told not to call 911 without management permission. The electric car makers contract doctors rarely grant it, instead often insisting that seriously injured workers, including one who severed the top of a finger, be sent to the emergency room in a lift. Reveal said, quoting 5 former medical clinic employees at Tesla's Fremont Auto Assembly plant. And last but not least, we've talked about this story before. It's a good one. In another strange episode, Musk found himself tethered in what's become known as the horse for sex scandal. Business Insider also broke that story, which revolved around a lawsuit filed by a woman who said she was hired to provide massage services to the world's richest human. She alleged she was summoned by Musk aboard his Gulfstream G60ER private jet for a full-body massage, and Musk showed her his erect penis, then touched her and offered to buy her a horse in return for sex. SpaceX paid the woman $250,000 in a legal settlement.
I will buy you a new horse.
The weirdest Musk workplace scandal was that he paid that woman to do in vitro fertilization of twins.
Yeah.
Just amidst like 3 other kids he was having.
He just loves reproducing. He can't stop.
That one I thought about a lot because one of his big hobby horses is declining birth rates.
Yeah.
And sort of similar to the $44 billion boondoggle he's gotten himself into. He, I guess he worked himself up into a frenzy and went, okay, I'll work on it. Yeah. Okay, I'll do it.
Did you see? So you've seen they just Twitter just got a big ad buy from SpaceX.
Oh, right.
So, I mean, I can't wait to buy a rocket off of the really persuasive ads that they're going to put on there. So this is like he's taking money from one of his companies to prop up his position in this failing venture here, so he can get just some cash flow in here. And of course, SpaceX is entirely dependent on government contracts. The company that he is leveraging leveraged to buy Twitter in the first place, Tesla was built on contracts as well. So he leveraged one thing that is just government money, and is now literally just taking government money out of another one to prop it up for a third thing that by any fucking reasonable measure should be a public utility, a thing like Twitter. They should all be fucking public utilities. It's like, what is the benefit? Look at this arrangement where we have the electric car company and the space company and the public forum company all owned by this fucking guy. What is his value add? Being an insane narcissist with a bunch of weird hobby horses that he gets to fucking pursue to oblivion because there's no one to stop him? Where is the public benefit to these being privately fucking owned? Especially because this is the guy who will take over. This is the guy who will reign in this era of privatized industry. Also, considering that the mechanism for him to publicly own it is not for him to go, okay, I'm cashing out $44 billion worth of my equity in, whatever bullshit venture. It's to just add tens of billions of dollars in debt onto the venture he's buying. The only thing where they let you buy things that way. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, how are you set to own this after that? That's insane. When you take out a mortgage, you owe that money. This is the only thing. Nothing. They don't let you do this with anything else, really. They don't let you go. Okay. I'm having a leveraged lunch. I'm buying a sandwich. Now the sandwich assumes $19 in debt.
And then
it's insane.
I can bundle my shit and sell it back to the sandwich after I've digested.
Yeah, we're packaging securities based on how much we're gonna shit the next day, and the revenue from that, believe me, it will be fine. But have you seen also since this deal began, Tesla's the shares are pretty much half what they were worth before. I know they had a stock split, but even given that, they've declined by about half. And I don't think it's just investors going, holy shit, this guy's a fraud, or this guy is obsessive, or will hype himself up into, going into this boondoggle that will consume all his time. It's also the fact that in the long run, it doesn't seem like Tesla will be worth $1 trillion.
Well, I mean, not when everyone can see what its CEO actually what his actual thoughts and behavior are like in public, because usually when someone's that wealthy, people just assume, oh, he must be smart. He must be good at what he does. But then is anyone going to want to get in a car fucking created by the asshole who's driving Twitter into the fucking ground? Or just
But even beyond that, though, Tesla isn't the only electric car company, he's fucked, right? Because it has no advantage over General Motors or any company that actually makes cars, which are now coming out with electric models that can compete with Tesla and be less expensive and not explode. And hey, here's one: it'll actually still drive if the company goes bankrupt, which will not be the case for your fucking Teslas. Right. Those things will brick the second they stop making payments.
If we're looking at Tesla's actual, fundamentals, some of which investors looked at during the gold rush period, I mean, they are dependent on carbon credits to have any positive cash flow. And when other companies with with much better manufacturing capacity and who make much better cars get into this space, what's going to happen?
That's why he put all his eggs in the fucking automatic car bullshit, because they were gonna solve self-driving and be the self-driving company with proprietary software. No, you've just made a ground version of the F-35. Congratulations.
Yeah, that was their only play, really, right? Was to make was to be the self-driving car guys, and then probably in his fantasies get out of the physical manufacturing business and just get software licenses. Yeah, they would be like IBM or Microsoft, but the only future I really see for Tesla is, being bought by someone else, because some people would still want to buy roadsters at a highly, highly increased cost. And the only future I see for any of his companies operating independently at all would probably be SpaceX as a government contractor. Mm-hmm. And the only products they actually make that could make money are things that get paid for through defense contracts, not space tourism or any of this fucking bullshit. You have to divide his companies into the shit, his hobby horse, and then the thing that they actually generates any positive revenue. And for companies that are entirely his hobby horse, like Twitter or like the Boring Company, that's nothing. That's vaporware. It will never make money.
Yeah. It's like all the stuff that this singular genius is supposed to bring to these industries, all the innovation is actually all of the garbage and all of the stuff that's just weighing it down. The stuff that makes money is just boring old stuff that, a government agency could much more efficiently manage at the end of the day, but not with magic and bells and whistles. The fact that he still has defenders, though, it's stunning, but at the same time, it's inevitable, because it is a theological belief in this country among millions of people that if you get to his position in this country, in the rat race, in the struggle for all against all of the market, if you get to a position like he has, then you by definition are in some way a genius. You earned it. You are the evidence of your success proves your worthiness of your position, and they just can't give that up, because if that's not true, then there's nobody at the fucking wheel of this thing. It's just a bunch of clowns and frauds just scamming their way from one quarter to another until the fucking wheels fall off.
I do want to close out the Musk thing. Could you see him, because I floated this idea the other day, Robert Maxwell type ending?
Okay, actually, yeah, I was thinking about this in the back of my head when you were like, okay, this is the only area of the economy where you're allowed to buy something for $44 billion and essentially just take on debt to do it. Could he? I mean, because Elon is the world's wealthiest man, and just as an individual, right? Like what he represents is so grafted into like the U.S. economy and like the global market, whatever you want to say. It's just like all the sinews of his, I don't know, drug cartel money laundering or whatever the fuck is going on behind the curtains there. That like if he fucks with the money too much, could he have like a plane crash in his future? Could he have one of his jets hit the Pacific at like 700 miles an hour, obliterating?
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I mean, think about the guys who got burned lending him money on this. I mean, okay, the one guy who I think would already be drawing up plans to kill him wisely has not lent him any money, and that's Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan. Has very conspicuously avoided Musk loans for the duration. But I do think, okay, if you're the higher level of the Bohemian Grove and you see like the octopus system, that this guy is at the center of a Jenga tower that's worth like $3 trillion when you connect it to a bunch of things. And you see how much you can goad him into doing things because he has one of those personalities of a guy who got bullied too much and he can't back down about anything. It's just like the check marks. The easiest solution to the check mark problem would be just make them a different color. But because he made this public stance, he can't be made to look like he's backing down. And that same dumbass impulse will obliterate trillions of dollars. If you're one of those guys, maybe the smartest thing you think is, yes, boat accident, and oh my God, what a tragedy that Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison of our age, has died and, his jet collided with an oil drum factory. Oh my God, how terrible. Anyway, we're going to be taking these companies into conservatorship and juicing the government contracts and selling all the shit that's like, we're going to turn your brain into a PlayStation 5.
Well, I mean, back
a little fantastical, but it's happened before.
Well, as long as we're fantasizing here, do you think he would be paying employees to bear his children if there was like reliable technology that could scan your brain and upload it into a computer? Because I think a lot of these guys, it's sort of like the Jeffrey Epstein thing. I think a lot of these guys are kind of hedging their bets against being able to artificially recreate the neural networks of their brain in a computer, which will never happen, or at least not in their lifetimes. They
can't even get good hair plugs.
With spreading their seed as far as possible, like all that weird Jeffrey Epstein stuff about freezing his dick and balls and stuff, and so he can keep siring children for 1 million years into the future. But Michael Hudson brought this up, like the crucial element to like the plane crash rather than the boating accident is that it would obliterate his brainstem and any chance of like recreating his thoughts in a computer.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I would like it if it worked a little bit. You could get a little bit of your consciousness in the computer, but he has to live in Counter-Strike forever. Just getting
you could just pwn him
Chinese
eternally.
Teenagers. Yeah.
Well, speaking of scams and frauds,
yeah, very good transition.
All right, well, moving on from one flim-flam to another.
Let's talk about what's going on with Sam Bankman-Fried. In just the past 5 years, Sam Bankman-Fried went from buying his first Bitcoin to becoming a multi-billionaire. The FTX founder is now worth an estimated $11 billion. He could have bought that Jordan jersey if he wanted to. His exchange is now worth $32 billion, and it brought in about $1 billion in revenue just last year. CNBC's Kate Rooney has more on the CEO's rise to the top of the crypto industry. They call him the JP Morgan of crypto, right?
Yeah, the Michael Jordan of crypto, if you will.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that the biggest cryptocurrency exchange just completely imploded after after borrowing its users' money to make risky bets?
But no, it was effectively altruistic. How could that happen?
Oh man. Effective altruism. We did a bit about this at our New York show when we were talking about the David Shore rave Burning Man party in his loft. But man, see, folks, I don't know if you're familiar with effective altruism. It's like altruism classic, except it's effective. And, effective altruism, I mean, sounds like sort of a buzzword. But no, actually, it's a philosophy created by Bay Area rationalists who are rationally approaching the problem of why do some have so much? Why do so few have so much when the world is so full of poverty and suffering? Well, altruism classic would have you believe that that's connected to how much wealth and power a small group of people have, and that they should essentially be forced to give up some of their wealth and property. No, you'd be wrong. If you were a rationalist, you would actually be working to give those people even more wealth and power because they can use it
most effectively because they're such geniuses. Like, why would you give it to a dumb old government when you could give it to these visionary masters of the universe? And we're seeing in every part of the economy, as soon as you just lightly turn down the free money dial, all of a sudden, all of that genius instantly evaporates. Like all that world-defining brilliance that makes them the ones who should have all the money and power because they know better than anyone else. All of a sudden, it's gone. All that happened was their capacity to endlessly borrow money, and all of a sudden, they're not geniuses anymore. It's weird how that happened.
Felix, I gotta get your take on this. Felix is the Mr. Money of the show. So, Felix, your take on Sam Bankman-Fried and the collapse of his cryptocurrency exchange. That was, Tom Brady, and then Larry David. All the celebs were. I mean, this is like the Super Bowl was not even a year ago. Yeah. And this shit is like, this is just
no.
Oh yeah. So
at least Pets.com had a little bit more of a run. I want to steal a little wordplay from the man who predicted this more than anyone, Ed Zitron, the City of Freaks of Sam Bankman-Fried. Sam Bankrun Fraud. Okay, so I was talking about this with Ed. Think about this. Okay, we've talked a lot about how, like, Elon Musk compared to John D. Rockefeller or J.P. Morgan or any of those guys, how he said everyone at the top of the billionaires list is an inferior intellect to their predecessors from 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Bankrun Fraud. Okay, let's think about if Jamie Dimon or Lloyd Blankfein or any of the evil bankers from the 2008 era, let's think about them. Let's think about if they were allowed to own NASDAQ, okay, or the New York Stock Exchange. They're allowed to also be a bank. They're allowed to be a brokerage house also, in addition to this. They're allowed to trade, and they're allowed to issue their own security and currency. How much money do you think those guys make just by not being stupid, by being like, holy shit, there's barely any regulation left. We can, if we don't blow it all up, if we don't issue our own currency that we claim has 40% APY, we could make $97 billion in 3 years. And then you give the same charter to Sam Bankrun Fraud, the effective altruism dumbass. Look what happens. Look what fucking happens. I mean, isn't effective altruism, isn't that just a great microcosm of this? Because what have rich pricks like this always done? If you're a New York finance vampire, what is your favorite thing to do? It's to go to a charity gala. They love that shit. They love
Jeff Bezos just announced he's giving away his fortune, but like I'm sure just like a family controlled trust
jack me off.
To fucking avoid taxation. And if anything, honestly, Sam Bankman Fraud may be the most effective altruist of all time, given how much fucking money he's stolen and how much wealth he's actually wiped out, rather than having these assholes get to spend it the way they want in a fucking altruistic manner.
Right, but like. Okay, so they've been doing that they've been doing these bullshit charities that don't seem to help anyone for the longest time. And then you give money to Yale, and then you give money to the Opera House, and then this, and then that. Sam Bankrun Fraud, like everything, like how he's looking at finance, like how he said one day he'll buy Goldman Sachs. He looks at all these guys, and he goes, hey, why are you doing it in the wrong way? I've invented a new type of private charity. It's effective. It's effective charity. Just like how I've invented effective finance. I've invented a new effective form of currency. And it turns out
he invented banking without regulation.
Yeah. It turns out all those guys who came before him, they were doing all of that for a reason.
Yeah, just like Twitter does all the things they do for a reason too.
Right. Those guys are doing that charity because it gives them social cachet. It gives them connections to elected officials. It gives them it
tax
gives
avoidance.
Them, most importantly, tax breaks and tax shelters. His replacement for that, effective altruism, which I guess is just like microfinance on steroids. It didn't help anyone. Because the type of shit they were doing would be like, okay, they would do a math problem and go, there's only a 0.005% chance of AI taking over the world, but that's such a horrifying future that we need to spend $500 million to prevent it from happening. How many people did it help? I don't know. Maybe 8 million. Maybe they did prevent that. Who knows? But like everything else, it collapsed. It collapsed. It was ineffective. It left a group of 10 guys crying in the Bahamas.
There's a good article in The Lever by Andrew Perez, Rebecca Burns, and Matthew Cunningham Cook titled "Washington's $32 billion Crypto Scam," which is about how Sam Bankman Fraud basically tried to buy his own regulators in D.C. by giving heavily to the Democratic Party. And I just want to read a little bit from this. It says here, the collapse underscores how the $849 billion crypto industry, down 1/5 in the last week from a high of $3 trillion a year ago, has been protected by regulators who are asleep at the wheel, while hapless ordinary investors suckered in with slick ads from prominent celebrities and athletes lose their savings. A few days after Bankman-Fried's prescient comments on the Bloomberg podcast, FTX co-hosted a crypto confab in the Bahamas with world leaders, celebrities, and investors. On stage, Bankman-Fried interviewed former President Bill Clinton and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair while wearing T-shirts, shorts, and New Balance sneakers. Okay, the T-shirts, shorts, and New Balance sneakers thing when you're interviewing a president and former prime minister is less interesting to me than like this was their big rollout of a crypto conference. They're like, hey, if you want to sell that what we're up to is not shady in any way, I'd definitely host a conference in the Bahamas with Bill Clinton as my fucking keynote speaker. Bill Clinton and Tony Blair.
Well, you know, the old saying, first is tragedy, then is farce. It was like he was doing a kabuki theater of the 90s. In one conference. Yeah. It's like he was acting out a ceremonial repeal of Glass-Steagall.
I know, like the people who are most responsible for the 2008 financial crash, which happened because of their severing any meaningful regulation of the fucking or like severing any division between commercial and financial banking, and deregulating Wall Street. Let's have those guys back to pimp for our new fucking banking 3.0. Like it's like old banking, except it's cool and effective. And yeah, you're rolling out Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, the people who authored the last fucking economic collapse.
Yeah, no, it was like a midsummer religious ceremony for deregulation.
It says here, according to an industry publication, Clinton suggested that regulators should adopt a do-no-harm mentality when dealing with cryptocurrencies. Politico announced that the event heralded the crypto industry's strange new respectability. At the time, Bankman-Fried was fashioning himself as a political kingmaker, boosting crypto-friendly candidates in a series of Democratic congressional primaries and getting advice from veteran Democratic consultants and younger quasi-left upstarts. In May, Bankman-Fried told NBC News he aimed to spend up to $1 billion on the 2024 elections. Now, just 6 months later, FTX has fully collapsed, according to Wall Street Journal. FTX had lent billions of dollars worth of customer assets to fund risky bets by its affiliated trading firm, Alameda Research, setting the stage for the exchange's implosion. The downfall was swift. When Binance, a competitor crypto exchange, announced on November 6 it was unloading its holdings of digital tokens issued by FTX, and in which Alameda was heavily invested, customers began pulling their monies from the tokens in FTX. Bankman-Fried announced on November 8 that Binance was acquiring FTX pending due diligence before Binance pulled out of the deal. Soon FTX was out of money. There's just another... it's pretty stunning detail in a Bloomberg article by Matt Levine about FTX's balance sheet. And right there, that Sam Bankman-Fried's main international FTX exchange held just $9 million in easily sellable assets against $9 billion of liabilities the day before it collapsed into bankruptcy, according to investment materials seen by the Financial Times. The largest portion of those liquid assets listed on an FTX international balance sheet dated Thursday was $470 million of Robinhood shares owned by a Bankman-Fried vehicle not listed in Friday's bankruptcy filing, which included 134 corporate entities. Then it also goes on to say, a spreadsheet listing FTX's international assets and liabilities seen by the Financial Times point at issues that brought Bankman-Fried crashing back down to earth. It references $5 billion of withdrawals last Sunday and a negative $8 billion entry described as hidden, poorly internally labeled fiat account. So, this is they're trying to sell the company, and this is when you have to, actually open up the books, and what they saw was just like $900 million of assets against $9 billion in liabilities.
And then apparently they just took a bunch of money out of it as it was failing. Just opened the back door they put in there, just pulled the money out.
Yeah, I've seen some people allege that out of that final reserve chute, the final money stash that they pulled out, they were essentially trying to gamble their way back to 10 billion with the 1 billion.
Always a winning strategy.
yeah, never give up.
Just go to fucking like Macau or something and put it on black or whatever. You clearly don't know an investment. I'm all of a sudden I'm going to figure out how to do this. No, just literally go to a casino, man. Do a fucking 3-team parlay. You got a better chance there. I do wonder though, is this with Bankman fraud and Musk? We're seeing what happens when just endless free money starts to get drained out of the economy. Does that mean that these are really the canaries in the coal mine, and we're going to start seeing a bunch of companies that appear, maybe less obviously fraudulent, maybe based on some sort of fundamentals, but are going to see a similar crisis and a similar economic collapse due to them in the coming probably like what by 2024? You got to imagine, right?
I mean, Absolutely. It does seem like the heights of American capitalism are just all crooks, like top to bottom. Like there's nothing real going on in any of these companies. It really does seem like that. I mean, like just think about all the people who have been on the cover of Forbes magazine over the last 10 years. And how many of them are currently either facing a jail sentence or, presided over the single greatest destruction of wealth in human history.
Right. Well, we think, one of the reasons that we pointed out, like, why guys 100 years ago were so much more impressive, the richest, 5 Americans then compared to now, is that now, if you're among, the 20 or 30 richest people in the world, it's a good chance that you got there because you were at the right place at the right time with an emerging technology in an effective zero interest rate environment.
Right.
Which is like, if you already had money, if you were already in there, if your foot was already in the door, and you don't make $10 billion in that environment, something is wrong with you.
Right.
And now, clearly, even if you do that, something's wrong with you.
And Andrew Carnegie, he built fucking libraries and museums and shit. This asshole was giving money to David Shore and Sean McElwee. I mean, he was building rave parties, and data for progress.
The
polls.
Altruistic rave parties, okay.
Yeah. But we are. I mean, now that he is public enemy number one, we are being treated to another view behind the veil of this Bankman fraud character. This is courtesy of the Daily Mail. Inside the very millennial life of bankrupt FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, teetotal vegan gamer 30 who claims to sleep 4 hours a night on a beanbag in his Bahamas penthouse that is also his office, which he shares with 9 coworkers.
Okay, can I just stop you there? The idea that anyone would be shocked that a large portion of this guy's life takes place on a beanbag. I mean, that is the first thing I figured out about the guy. That is a beanbag using gentleman.
It says, for a one-time crypto billionaire who rubbed shoulders with A-listers from Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen to Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, departing FTX chief Sam Bankman-Fried leads an unassuming lifestyle. Some might even say boring. The 30-year-old, nicknamed SBF, is a teetotal vegan who sleeps 4 hours a night, drives a Toyota Corolla, and shuns designer clothes for scruffy loungewear and sneakers. It's likely that the only luxury he'll need to give up following the collapse of FTX is his exclusive penthouse in the tax haven of the Bahamas, which he shares with several of his acolytes. Bankman-Fried lives in the apartment cum office with 9 of his staff, including his rumored on-off lover, 28-year-old Stanford grad Caroline Ellison. Ellison, a Harry Potter fanatic whose father is an esteemed academic, was CEO of Alameda Research, the trading firm launched by Bankman-Fried, which is inexorably tied to FTX's downfall. Going on, it gives a little flavor about how basically the people who were living in this kind of Bahamas polycule running the world's largest crypto exchange met at kind of like a sober frat at MIT, where instead of drinking alcohol they would do LARPing and have pie and cake and stuff. It says here, stunning penthouse aside, it's a modest lifestyle for a man who until this week had a fortune valued at $16 billion. In fact, he is a self-proclaimed effective altruist, an ethos that can be loosely defined as using the resources at one's disposal to bring about as much good as possible.
Repulsive.
It says Bankman-Fried met some of his FTX team at Epsilon Theta, a living group at MIT, which has been described as like a fraternity, but replace all the alcohol with the nerdiest stuff you can imagine. Indeed, Epsilon Theta's website explains, the house is socially dry, meaning that no alcohol is served at parties. However, visitors can usually expect to find costumes, cake, and or LARPing. Now, look, I know we made fun of these guys for having alcohol-free parties, but I think there's something a little bit rich about the Daily Mail representing the country with like the worst drinking problem on the planet, being like, look at this wacky millennial lifestyle of these people who don't like drinking 18 pints of beer a night.
Well, I mean, if Elon Musk has shown anything, it's that psychedelics are actually worse than drinking. JP Morgan was such a drunk, he had that disgusting little cauliflower growth on his nose.
Oh, God.
He's certainly a smarter guy than any of these people.
I mean, do you think he's going to jail? I mean, is he going to face any jail time for this, or is this just sell off some stuff in the Bahamas and skate on this?
I don't know.
I mean, did he do anything illegal? I mean, it seems like it should be illegal to just withdraw money from your customers' crypto accounts to fund bets that the investment arm of the company you own is making.
I mean, honestly, with crypto, I don't know. A big thing with SBF specifically was, do you remember that weird bill that he was getting Cindy Loomis and Kirsten Gillibrand to pass?
Yes.
Basically the soft pedal regulation of crypto. I mean, I don't know. I watch all the crypto stuff at a extreme distance, and like the legality of certain things in America, I don't really know. Just I would guess he's not going to prison, and I would guess actually that it's more likely that in 2 years someone bankrolls a new venture by him. That's what I would guess.
You bring up the Kirsten Gillibrand thing, man. Like I said, all those Tom Brady, Larry David commercials, that wasn't even a year ago. It was even less time ago that like Kirsten Gillibrand and that other congresswoman senator appeared on like CNBC and was asked, like, do you agree with regulators who say it's a bad idea to put like retirement funds into crypto exchanges? And they were like, no, absolutely not. We totally disagree with that. Please, it's a great investment. Go ahead.
Has Gillibrand ever seen anything on Twitter and not gone, oh, that's a great idea?
Well, wasn't Sean McElwee like very much associated with Kirsten
Gillibrand? Yes, he was her Rimmel Wormtongue in her amazingly hilarious 2020 presidential run.
Yep.
Guarantee you that's part of the reason that she became Mrs. Captain Crypto after that.
Yeah, God, that was, talk about not that long ago. That was 3 years ago. Gillibrand tried being a dark horse contender for the presidency by repeating things that she saw on Twitter, that Sean McElwee saw on Twitter.
Yes,
like
he would
going
just tell
out there,
her the latest hot memes, and then she would just spit them out. And they're like, he was thinking, I'm going to the White House. I'm going to be Sam Seaborn.
Yeah, his formula was like, if something got 500 likes, have Senator Gillibrand say it. Have her talk about Rosa Luxemburg.
Well, so whether it's Musk or bank run fraud, things are going great for billionaires right now, but I'd like to end the show with a reading series that returns to an old favorite of ours. This happened this was 2 weeks ago, but I think there's still some juice here. We've just been distracted by Elon and the midterm elections, but bad news, guys. Were you aware that Lucianne Goldberg just died? Jonah Goldberg's mother just passed away. You might remember her from the Clinton impeachment as the woman who basically gave Linda Tripp the idea
to wear a wire, right?
Yeah, gave Linda Tripp the idea to record her conversations with Monica Lewinsky. But the grand dame has shuffled off this mortal coil. She has passed through the veil to the other side, but not before Commentary Magazine wrote a great obituary for her by not Jonah Gold, not her son. John Podhoretz, her not son. And I know it's hard to keep these guys in track. John Podhoretz's mother is Mitch
hard
Decker.
to keep the sons in track. All of these brilliantly talented sons just hanging around, collected fucking pensions from the conservative media.
So there's a really lovely obituary for Lucianne, 1935 to 2022, in Commentary by John Podhoretz, and I thought we'd dip into that for the end of the show. So it begins. Lucianne Goldberg was. She owned the term proudly, a broad, a grand broad, big, blousy, sexy, and up for a good time from morning till night. Would you like me to read that again?
I get it. She's a broad. She's a good time Sally.
But sexy is the adjective that I am raising an eyebrow to in this. I mean, like, isn't it? It just, you could, John Podhoretz, I know it's not his mom, but I mean, it's his friend's mom. And it just, I don't know, big, blousy, sexy, and up for a good time from morning till night.
Jonah, let no one say your mom wasn't a big whore.
I mean, she was portrayed by, who's the actress from Justified season 2? What's her name?
Margot Martindale?
Yeah, Margot Martindale. She was portrayed by Margot Martindale in the American Crime Story about the impeachment. It's just, I'm sorry, I mean, no disrespect to Margot Martindale, but if she's portraying you in like a made-for-TV version of your life, I don't think the word sexy is really going to come to mind. Going on, he writes, she was the first and last person I ever knew to spend her days inserting cigarettes into a cigarette holder and smoking them with relish like she was attending the blowout party in Breakfast at Tiffany's. She was my dear, dear friend for 40 years. It was Lucianne, the literary agent, whom I turned to in 1983 when I had my first idea for a book, a parody of TV Guide during the days when parodies were all the rage. She was maybe the only agent in New York at the time who represented conservatives. The day she went out to publishers with the proposal, someone else sold the same concept. The project was not to be, and the version that was ultimately published was a dud. But thank God for its abortive existence, because she became a part of my life and never stopped being so. The idea that in the 80s we were robbed of a TV Guide parody written by John Podhoretz is just something that I don't think I can take on into my brain. There's too much bad stuff in there already. And now I'm just thinking about, a Mandela Effect universe in which that book exists. Lucianne was maybe the most sheerly fun person I've ever known. Full of good high humor and gossip and tales about everyone we ever knew in common. And plenty she only knew, and plenty everybody knew. What a storyteller she was. Cynical and world-weary and finding the humor in just about everything. And she had an essentially comic view of the world in which one way or another we were either all fools or tumblers. She started an anti-women's lib group in the 1970s called the Pussycat League as a joke, and it provoked outrage that absolutely delighted her. She was not a demi-mondaine, but she was a confidant to many who were. A friend of hers who lived on the edge of financial disaster found security in a rent-controlled apartment she rented out by the hour. And by allowing a once famous New York City radio personality with a personal picadillo to study her toes. I don't know where this is going here. Who do you think is the New York radio personality who was into toes? So she's renting out an apartment by the hour to a New York City radio personality who's into toes. Is that what I'm getting here?
He likes feet, and she showed him her feet. That seems to be what he's saying.
I mean,
she's actually got me here. Now I want to know more. Maybe there's more to Lucianne Goldberg than I thought. I want to hear more of these stories.
I mean, I'm shocked at how horny this obituary is.
There was a guy. He had a thing, and she let him look at her feet. Like, wait a minute, what? How do you know about that? For one thing.
Well, they were dear, dear friends. Another person who helped her with her news aggregation website in a faraway state, someone whom she never met, to my knowledge, Lucianne, being one of the first people to live most of her life on the internet, called her one day to say she was going to have to take a break because the police had for some reason decided to arrest her for attempting to kill her husband. These friends loved Lucianne because they believed she didn't judge them. Oh, but she did. She did. I mean, that's another throwaway anecdote that's just like, I would like more explanation here. She was around in the early 1960s when JFK was cutting a swath through his aides at the White House, which served as a preparation for the moment she became world famous. That was at the end of January 1998 when she became the public representative of Linda Tripp, the intimate and betrayer of Monica Lewinsky, whose taped phone calls, taped on Lucianne's advice, revealed the relationship between Lewinsky and President Clinton. You've probably forgotten, but I haven't, the hilarious spectacle of 100 reporters standing on the sidewalk at 84th and Broadway in front of Lucianne's building as she calmly and with a Cheshire cat smile replied to the screams of America's journalists. That's not a Linda Tripp question, she would say in her sing-song voice if they asked her what her agenda was here, or the angle, or whatever. And unlike other people who have been in the destroy the president game, she didn't make any bones about it. When Lewinsky Gate ultimately came a cropper, she was even-keeled. If you go at the king, you best still kill the king, she said, and we didn't. What a life lived by this lady here.
I want to know more about the toes. That's all I got out of any of that.
I mean, he goes on to say that
the situation where she's helping out a friend with peccadillos by letting him study her toes? Like, what the fuck does this mean? I need to know.
He goes on to give here. I mean, John goes on to tell a story about how they were eating at a restaurant and Bill Clinton was at, and she told Lucianne, and she came to the restaurant, and then he like schmoozed her for 10 minutes, and then she came away dazzled by his charm and brilliance. To my other dear Goldberg friend Jonah, and to Jonah's fair Jessica, and to Lucianne's namesake, their daughter Lucy, I can only wish they find solace in knowing that they, like me, had been given a gift by God. This great broad was certain loved by her presence in our lives. So R.I.P. to a real one. R.I.P. Bozo. R.I.P. to Lucianne Goldberg. A great broad, just a great broad who we all remember her toes.
I'll remember those toes, don't we, folks?
What do you think, guys? That wrap it up for today's episode?
Yep.
All right.
What I'm getting from the Sleek and finance news is the only safe investment is canned food and shotguns. So get in on that. Get on the ground floor there.
You can never go wrong buying municipal bonds.
All right, gang. Until next time.